Today I chose to wear the shortest shorts I own.
I'm
Sit on
happy
this
you
beach
decided
chair.
to do that.
This
Be
is for
staring
you,
at
to be
those
honest.
delicious legs for the rest of this podcast.
Yeah, I'm gonna see it too. I'm gonna be watching the thing back and be like, dang, he literally just
Damn,
he was
look
just
at
staring at my
those
legs the
tan little
whole
cutlets.
time. You know?
Oh
T-minus 6
yeah,
a.m.
that's how you do it.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
Would you be? Actually, I don't care that much. I was gonna say grab those headphones, but I'm not gonna be listening to anything anyway. Who needs
It's
to
all
monitor?
good.
Who needs to monitor sound?
We're just chilling.
Yeah, we're just hanging out.
That's it. You know.
So
Thanks for joining our Patreon.
these books aren't books; they're actually just coasters.
Okay.
Yeah,
How you gonna do Jurassic Park like that, bro?
that is Jurassic Park. Ooh, that's Joe's book.
Yeah.
It won't get that wet.
Want to choose one of your books?
Nah.
He's gonna watch this podcast and know who left the fucking stains on the water, his waterlogged
Listen.
fucking raptor tails.
Fine. It's fine. So thanks for coming out.
Yeah, man.
You are the first of many.
Really, I'm honored.
You're gonna be the first one recorded, probably the first one posted, because everybody else's schedule is insanely busy for some reason.
Yeah. Just lazing about, doing nothing.
Yeah.
you know?
Also, thanks for taking the last minute request. I
Hell
was
yeah.
supposed to be interviewing someone else who
Dude,
shall go
I love doing
unnamed.
podcasts. Like, if you don't mind, I'd be down to do multiple of these. If not, like, host some myself.
I mean, ideally, that's like kind of the vibe. Is like
Yeah.
we would have people back, because yeah, just fan favorites, I guess, and also just like it's a podcast that I started, so like at the end of the day, I get to choose who comes back on
Yeah.
or who hosts podcasts. So you'll be back for sure.
Awesome.
I
Already got the green light. You heard that.
I enjoy talking to this guy. I enjoy talking to you. You're very easy to talk to.
Thanks, man. I've heard that from like a few people since I moved here, and I never thought I was that guy.
Really?
Like, I've always thought, it says a lot about like what self-perception can like do to you, because like I never, like, every time I have a social interaction, it's just like there's just this fucking, like in the war movies where like the grenade goes off and like everything's like hazy and yeah, bro.
Yeah.
I feel like that all the time. But I guess I'm good at faking it, and in a weird way, I'm like the opposite of like a real person, and like I feel more comfortable talking over a podcast than just like, it's like almost like an excuse to have prosperous conversation.
I feel that there's like a comfort that kind of comes with doing something like this. I don't know what it is about the setup. It's like when there's a mic and somebody else also has a mic. And unfortunately, this is a new podcast and the budget's, a little tight since revival. So we couldn't get like a good headphone setup. Like, I love having the headphones on because it's just you and that person in that headphone setup. Nothing else exists. And it's just so personal and intimate.
We'll have it eventually.
So yeah, we'll get there on the next one.
This is nice, dude. Budget, I don't know what you're talking about. Because honestly, like my first podcast, dude, it was just me and my best friend and like roommate at the time, and we would just like huddle around one little condenser mic and just be like you had to have some mints on deck because we were definitely smelling.
It was like
each
a USB mic, like USB.
Yeah,
That's tough,
exactly.
Man. That's tough.
Yeah, but we made it work.
Yeah. That's sick, man. Humble beginnings, you got to start somewhere.
Hell yeah. I feel like if you don't have humble beginnings, you like run the risk of being like this weird like sociopath, maniacal kind of like brat or something.
Yeah.
I mean, there's exceptions,
Also, I think with humble beginnings, you kind of learn to use what you have, and you learn more about entertainment. Because you have to be entertaining in those scenarios. Like, sometimes you have the highest quality setup, you can have the highest quality mic, you can know all the people, you have other friends, you're like really cool, but you're boring as shit when you're talking.
Yeah.
And that's a thing that happens, and it's life experience is probably the more entertaining, and definitely more valuable than any of this like expensive ass shit. Like,
yeah,
you can't really buy that kind of knowledge and that experience. So
Well, like to go back to like your statement on like, you know, being a boring speaker, I heard something very interesting last night. I was listening to a podcast. It's not really my thing, but it's just like podcast is Jay Shetty. It's
I don't know who
like
that is.
kind of Buddhist like guru guy, but
Oh, cool.
he was talking to this. I think she's from like Sweden or something, but this expert on love. But they were talking about communication and everything, and he made a great point about like a lot of times when you find someone boring, you're probably asking boring questions. You know what I mean? Like an easy way to make or like avoid feeling like someone is boring, ask them a non-boring question and you'll be surprised.
That's interesting because I've always found myself to be like not like recently. I feel like recently I've been better with that. But actually, I think that's probably why, because I'm surrounded by people who ask interesting questions.
Yeah.
Before it was like I used to think I was a very like normal, just like super normal, like boring ass, like doesn't have fun talking to people kind of guy. And that wasn't really me. I just think I just wasn't surrounded by the people that were asking anything interesting or like thinking about anything interesting. So now that I'm surrounded by a bunch of artists and people who are very how do I say maniacal, I guess.
Let's say free.
Very free people.
Yeah.
No, like genuinely though, everybody around me is very interesting in what how their thought process, and I feel like everybody always has like the good questions, you know.
Yeah.
Like we don't sit around and talk about anything boring generally, and if we're
usually not,
and sometimes we're not even talking. Sometimes we're just like free associating, and just things are happening without even.
That's when the craziest stuff comes out.
Bro, you guys sometimes go on tangents for like an hour, just like doing, and it just turns into like psycho improv.
Yeah,
and it's like we're doing full on plays. And it's hilarious. It's great.
We need straight jackets sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes we just need like like gags.
Oh,
and just
that's a whole other.
Yeah,
scenario.
Well, maybe we can change that up. Yeah. I don't know.
I'm gonna edit that part out.
That was the first thing that came to mind. Maybe I should take that test. Maybe I should take that test. Maybe I have an uncovered fetish.
Oh,
there's
fetish
like that
test?
BDSM test where like it tells you if you're like a top or a bottom, basically. Wow. Have you ever taken that test?
No.
It's pretty interesting. Like
I should do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm down. I don't know where the test is, but somebody knows out there.
Somewhere.
I think it's on the internet.
Somewhere.
You just like basically say what you want, what you like, what people, you know, stuff like that, and then it just tells you if you're, you know, how dominant you are or how submissive you like to be.
I like to think that I'm dominant, but I feel like if I meet the right one, they might overthrow me.
Everybody's a mix of both.
Yeah.
In a certain way, like even the most dominant people can be submissive and should be submissive, because there's like a balance to it. You can't just be a dominant person, because then you're just like an abuser. You know, you gotta, people who are solely dominant, who only like dominance, sometimes have an ego problem, you know. And I think that everybody can be submissive. Whether you enjoy it or not is like different, but like I think it's important to sometimes be submissive.
Yeah, I think so too. I like a nice balance.
Yeah, exactly. And not just like sexually, like in general.
Like a little tug of war or something, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, we flip around and then like, take me, daddy.
Exactly. I think there's probably more. Okay, you want to move on? You want, because I could stay on this topic for the rest of the day.
No, let's make that the last thought. Your last.
Oh, I was just gonna say like the thing about ego. I think there could potentially be even more ego in a submissive person, because the whole idea of enjoying being submissive. A lot of times, I'm not saying, you know, I'm not generalizing or anything, but for a lot of people who like to be dominated, it's a reprieve from their typical day-to-day life, which is probably control. You know, they probably have a lot of control and are very egotistic in their daily life, and they long for someone to overthrow them.
Interesting. Like those businessmen that like to lick feet and
like those Wall Street feet lickers. Yeah.
Feet lickers.
Yeah, that's all. I know.
Speaking of ego, I guess we can go out from there. How has your ego been since Revival?
A lot better, man.
And we're not going to talk about Revival for long because we've been talking about it for months now. So we'll keep it short. But I just want to know how you've been since that. You know?
Yeah. I've been much better, man.
Mm-hmm.
Before and after, there was definitely like a distinct change in me. It's hard to like really put into words, but I would just say that I feel a lot more comfortable with affection. I feel a lot more comfortable with giving affection to myself and caring for myself. Like, you know, I've been on this kick right now where I'm just like, you know, I'm going to the gym pretty diligently and I feel a lot better. And before that, I was just like sunk in this sunken place, you know? And I was just telling someone this the other day. Someone asked me how my day was going, and I was like, I'm in love with my friends, and they make my life so much better. That's how my day's going. Because it's true, man. Like, for real. Like, you included. You were there for me when I was like about to quit on a song, you know, and you talked me through it like a fucking little league coach that you are. And I was like,
that was a big deal. That moment, I was like, honestly, it was slightly confusing because I was like, wow, you're genuinely thinking about cutting the song? And to me, I was like, okay, obviously not. But I understood that to you, it wasn't that obvious. For us on the outside, it was very obvious that you could finish that song, and it was very important and very vital to your performance. And then understood that to you, it wasn't that clear, you know. In all respects, like the glasses thing, and you said you weren't even able to see the strings because it was dark.
No,
in there. Like that kind of stuff. Like we didn't know that, you know.
But at the same time, it was very mental. I think it was just those were like physical things. Like a lot of times when you're having a mental breakdown or like you're giving into your like pain body, you know, it's like things become unsensical. Like it doesn't matter, like how you were surprised in the first place that I even wanted to cut the song. It doesn't matter because like I'm convincing myself, and a lot of times we turn to like outer things that, you know, kind of inhibit us but aren't like, it's not the root of the problem. You know, it's like almost like when you're in an argument with like a significant other and you kind of like have this pride going, and like you start to bring up things from the past that don't really matter. You know what I mean? Like some people tend to do that, and it's like that same kind of feeling when you're having like an anxiety attack. You start to just like rationalize irrational things.
So and I think that's discernment is a really important thing to have. And I think that once you have those moments of anxiety, your discernment kind of goes out the window. And I think that that's why having people around you that can discern the situation helps you through it, because there is value in adjusting your physical space when you're having anxiety attack when you're being anxious. Like what you said about your glasses and the visual, like whether it was like completely true or not, that was a very important factor in adjusting your physical space to better suit your needs. It's like if you're going skydiving, or like you're afraid of heights and you're going skydiving, like having a parachute helps a lot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It helps cure that.
A little
you know
bit,
what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like if you're on a plane and I had a parachute, I'd be like, okay, I could survive
Okay.
if I fell out of a
Yeah,
plane. I
that's
have
true.
a parachute, right? Or like if there's an instructor there, I'd be like, if the
think you'd
instructor
be
wasn't there, I'd be like, wow, this is very scary. Even if I had a parachute,
give, like
you know?
if you were in first class, they'd give you a parachute.
I feel like they just like your whole your yeah, I don't know. Maybe
It's probably too expensive to.
they probably have their own instructors just like waiting in the back behind them. It's like, okay guys, the plane's going down, you ready to jump out? Like we're gonna strap you up real quick. Like they just have people ready there.
They'll
to,
just
like,
be
save them.
uploaded into like a alternate like reality thing that we don't even know exists because they're so rich.
Just
Like,
like the plane just disappeared.
Kind of done with this life, anyways.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, you never know what's out there, man. These guys are going to space now, so like You saw that Jeff Bezos thing, right?
No, I've heard people talk about it, but I have no idea what's going on. I don't really keep up with current events like that.
That's fine. He was up there for like 11 minutes. They just went up. Well, no, not even the total flight. The total time that they went up and came down was like 11 minutes, I think.
Wow.
Or was it?
And someone was telling me that like it came out of like the employees' pay or something.
I mean,
but I feel like that's
definitely
just
not
conjecture.
true. Like I don't think that's true.
Yeah.
I at a press conference, the Jeff Bezos' brother, which I'm sure he got flack for, but he was basically like, you guys paid for this. The people that buy using Amazon, and then the people who work for Amazon.
And that was like,
you don't say that.
You,
like,
yeah, that was the wrong
you
thing
can
to
kind of
say.
see Bezos kind of, so you can kind of see Jeff squirm a little. He's like, ooh, that's like number
That's
one
a
PR.
PR.
Yeah. That was like the thing they taught me in class. They were like, don't say this. No, there's no way. Like, if you're an employee of Amazon, you are directly contributing to making the money, but you are also being paid. So like, it's not like you're taking a pay cut so they can go to space. Like, those people are still getting paid. Now there's a lot more to talk about. Like, it's not like they're being treated well or anything. It's not like there's not problems there.
Nothing ridiculous.
But people like to conflate issues. They like to like you can't really say like, oh, billionaires are all corrupt and they're all terrible people, and we just get rid of them and that's how we fix the world's problem. Because that would actually hurt us more than it would help us in this current situation. And people like to look at the wrong thing. Like, what you should look at the unions and the actual work environment and how they can actually adjust. But nobody wants to do that. They just want to look at the evil big corporate guy and say, you're the bad guy, fix all the problems.
I think that like, I mean, evil has as much power as we give it, and and in a way, like, we created evil. Like, I was talking about this the other day. You don't see like a fucking like Hitler squirrel or anything like that, like a fucking squirrel that like, killed other squirrels like by the thousands in gas chambers and shit, like, like, because we as humans with our consciousness comes like with a lot of responsibility, and we created evil itself, in my opinion, like the idea of evil. And then once it was created, it was like Pandora's box. We can't put it back inside, but
it'll always exist.
It'll always exist. And not to say that like it's something that's purely human, but I think it's something that's like purely sentient.
Or that like you can't like fix that. Like, you can adjust to evil and you can fix those problems.
Yeah.
But
my point is that, so you said adjust to evil, right? What if like that's just an illusion that you're adjusting to? You know what I mean? Like, what if like we created the idea of evil? Not to say that there's not just purely evil people out there, but how many more psychopaths did we create by condemning things and making evil like such a prominent, like,
it's like the
vocabulary.
Like the problem is evil. Like, that's what we created. Is like,
like it minimizes things. You know what I mean?
It makes it really simple.
Yeah,
it makes things like poverty exists because evil. Like, it makes everything super simple, and everything has so much more nuance than.
And then it prospers. Evil prospers.
Evil prospers in simplicity. It really does, because then they can just go like, okay, I'm evil, and keep doing everything they're doing, because nobody knows what they're doing, because nobody's talking about what they're doing or how they can fix things. And then sometimes people don't even think they're evil, and then they're just being called evil, and they're like, well, I know I'm not evil. And they don't even see that they're doing evil things or doing things that are morally unjust, you know? And that's the problem, is that there's no nuance in the conversation.
Exactly.
It's just like bad, you know? And that's how most situations in the media kind of go down. It's like they all kind of see like everybody on Twitter and on all these social media platforms, they just see one person do one thing and they're like, okay, well, I mean, you're terrible and you should never be listened to again. And it's like, that's the only thing, and then there's no conversation after that. It's just like, well, you don't deserve a platform, or you don't deserve to do this, or like, you did this one time back then and now like there's nothing, even though that person could be actively, trying to fix those problems. Or like they only see so surface level. And, not to get too deep into this, because people talk about this all the time, but that's true though. The evil is simplified. And how did we get here?
It doesn't matter, man. We're just riding the wave, bro. We're just present. That's how it happens. That's how it happens.
But yeah, so you start talk about since revival. You've been really great with like just everything. Like I feel like
Oh, that's how we got here. I
you-
was
your
fucking
friends and
going around the question.
So
I'm
like,
so good I fool myself. No. Yeah, I've been a lot better, man.
that's good, man.
Yeah.
So July 30th, right? That's when your revival performance is live on streaming platforms, which is
Yes,
very
sir.
exciting. I'm glad you're doing it because
Thanks.
at one point or another, I heard that a few people, well, the people other than me weren't releasing them on platforms, specific people, and I kind of like I was like, oh, come on, like, we want it, everybody wants it, people are
Yeah.
gonna listen to it.
I contemplated that.
Mhm.
I was like, I don't even have studio versions of this song.
Yeah.
Of two of the songs,
Mhm.
2 out of the 3, and I'm like, what's the point in putting this live version out? It's already on YouTube. It's like I'm kind of thinking of going in a different direction anyways already, because I have Kanye brain and I'm just like constantly changing my mind about everything. But
Kanye brain.
yeah. But I was like, stop overthinking this shit. Like,
Yeah.
Everyone around you wants it. Like, just put it out there, and it's an exercise in like not overthinking shit, basically. Right. And also, so many other people put hard work into it outside of myself who want to see it too, and so it's not just about me,
Yeah.
So that's really like what pulled the trigger for me. And I'm glad you said what you said the other day. I don't know if this is like public information or anything, but how you said how you said that you kind of like want it to stand alone, like it's all right, like you kind of just want to keep moving forward, and that's all I want to do too. And it made me feel a little bit more comfortable about releasing these tracks and possibly not having a studio version of it.
Yeah, I was before I do this, I need to fix this because this is.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
I didn't notice that it was loosening. But yeah,
Please stand by.
I was basically saying, oh, this is like turning now. Jesus, these things are so like.
Yeah, I have one. You all right?
I need to work out. Oh, gosh. Is that normal? I'm just looking too much. Let me not look too hard. Sorry.
Yeah. Get lost.
Yeah.
There's a monitor right there, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. I was actually looking at a ghost version of me. So yeah, I was basically saying that I like that it
My foot's asleep.
that it
Oh my god. All right, continue. Say.
I like that it came out on its own in that way. Like I like that it was a live version and that the only version of that exists is a live version. Because what that does for me is that it's like it just feels different because most people only post studio versions of their songs, and then sometimes they do live versions. And if they do live versions, they usually already have studio versions, and those might, like, typically they'll be up already. And if they're a new artist, then eventually those studio versions are going to come out. So I like the idea of those songs just existing as live versions because for me, I like to move forward on things. I like to just like keep going instead of like simmering on things. And, I think there's a time and place for that. I think there's a time and place to like sit on something for a while and work on something for a while. But for this, it just didn't feel that way. So I was like, I like it the way it exists. I really enjoy it. One day, if it speaks to me.
Sorry.
Is your foot still
like,
asleep?
Yeah, and it like turned into my whole leg.
Oh my god. Do you need to stand up?
No, it's all right.
You
I'll
sure?
Yeah.
You can stand up if you want to.
I'm good. I feel like it'll get worse.
Okay.
Like I'll just feel like I have a peg leg or something.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I think like we were talking, I was like, I don't want it to feel like an obligation. Like you never want your art to feel like an obligation, And like something about recording a live version before the studio version, and then also putting it out on Spotify and everything. It's like this kind of, you don't want to be in this mad dash to create something and then it comes out like rushed or like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I never want to
that.
do that, and that's the whole point why I mean not the whole point, but part of why I do music is like because it doesn't feel like a day job. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I agree with you.
Let me keep. If you want to keep talking, you can. But I'm gonna check something.
What's this podcast called?
Huh?
What is this podcast called?
It's called
Oh, I feel you. I feel you. Hosted by Hector Sanchez.
This is new, so got to make sure everything's working well. we're gonna show this on the Patreon eventually because this is for Patreon. And if you're watching this not on Patreon, you're a lucky person, or it came out much later than when we recorded it. One thing, I tried to do a podcast one time, but it turned into such a big thing. Like it ended up being like a big visual show that was gonna have like a live performance at the end and everything, like a talk show basically. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. Like I bought a boom mic. I bought this mic actually right there, this NTG2, the one you're speaking into. About that, I bought a boom pole, and then decided to go to Anthony's backyard and record a show. It was called The Show, with like 10
Nice.
people. It was like the core members of Project Field, but it was like 10 people in one boom mic. It sounded terrible. It looked terrible. And then we started it. We got like 30 minutes in, and then Joe was like, "Oh my God, we're not recording." It's like, so we just went back at it again. We tried again, and I was so not in it. Like I was so mad, so angry the whole time. You could tell I was just pissed off.
I can see it right now vividly in my head.
Yeah, it exists somewhere. Maybe one day you'll see it if you're a Patreon.
I hope so.
Yeah, it's a failure. It's a Project Field failure.
There's you have to have a couple of those.
Dude, I've been thinking about recently.
Right?
Yeah, I've been thinking recently, like losing. I hate losing.
I know,
but it's so important. Losing is.
Sorry, I'm like obnoxious.
I need to get better chairs next time.
Yeah.
I just went for like beachy vibes. We're just hanging out, but these chairs are like
they were actually hilarious. It was really comfortable at first, but I'm realizing why people don't sit this close to the floor.
That's true. Yeah. So you're good since revival. We talked about that. Are you like I'm assuming you're working on more. After this revival July 30th thing comes out, do you plan on releasing more after that, or are you still working on stuff? Like what's going on?
I hope so. I been working on some things. I'm really getting into like making music for other people too. Like yeah,
I've experienced it. It's great.
Because it's like it's a
beneficiary.
Yeah, I mean it's just it helps me get out of my own head. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's clear, like the picture's clearer to me when I'm not like directly, in the portrait. Jesus Christ. It's the show all over again.
Thanks for recording this. Hold on.
Yeah, hold for technical difficulties. It is an honor to be the first guest on this show.
$13, bro.
Oh,
let's talk.
I could have told you that.
Honestly,
no, I have this exact same thing. Well, not exactly the same, but like a little hop and a skip up.
Okay, cool.
From this in my studio.
Honestly, they're working.
Yeah.
They're holding the mics.
Yeah.
But yeah, continue. You've been getting into producing for other people.
Yeah. It helps me like get out of my own way, and like it's easier when I'm not just like hyper focused on my own vocals and stuff, and but I do have some stuff in the can that I think deserves to be like fleshed out a little more, and if it is something that I feel like belongs in the world and like I'd be doing a disservice by not releasing it, then I'll release it. But as of now, there's no hard dates or anything like that.
Okay.
You know, I definitely need I need some assistance with some tracks that have potential.
Okay.
Just like I hit a wall creatively, just doing it all by myself. And
That's a pretty high bar, isn't it? Like you feel you feel like you'd be doing a disservice to not have it out. Do you think that's a high bar, or is that not as high as
I think I'd be doing a disservice. There's tracks where I feel like I'd be doing a disservice. I didn't mean like to the world. I mean more so like a disservice to myself by not releasing it. You know, like something that's just like scratching at me. Like, you know, there's those tracks where it's just like, okay, I've listened to this 50 times. There's a reason why I'm obsessed with this thing. Like maybe I should just put it out and let it have a life, or like, you know, let it fly. But you know, that is the constant struggle as an artist. Like you never know when you're finished with something. You never know, like, you know, I mean, which, you know, it's just, it's very ephemeral. It's very like something that's not really, there's no equation for it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It doesn't have like a finite answer or anything like that. You just have to like go with your gut. And I guess my gut is very choosy.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally fair. I think
I feel like you're the same way though.
I'm pretty I'm pretty like particular about a lot of things, but also I think I kind of recently I've been priding myself in just kind of like trusting myself and just kind of letting things happen and not judging it too harshly, or judging anything too harshly that's mine, because I love to critique. I enjoy it heavily. I love talking shit. And I am very passionate about critiquing art because that's what I do. That's what I have the most fun in. But when it comes to me, like if it's my art, it's kind of damaging sometimes if you do it too much. Not kind of damaging. It's very
Your
damaging.
Own worst critic.
Yeah, it's very damaging if you let that unleash on yourself. Because it's like when you're critiquing the art of others, especially the art of people that you don't know, and you're just doing it with your friends, it's like it's okay to be pretty harsh, you know. If it's like
safe distance,
if you don't know the person and it's art that's out, yeah, I love talking shit about.
Okay, there's a difference when you're talking about it with your friends and like posting.
That's what I'm saying. No,
I think if you're not being like toxic, you should like keep that same energy.
No, of course, yeah. I think that if I knew the person, or if I knew that they would see what I was gonna post, or even not even knowing, like sometimes I'm usually pretty careful about the art that's closer. Like I would never shit on somebody's art that I know. Like that would be really terrible of me, because it's not great to hear. Like what if, even though it's fun to do,
it constructive.
You know what I'm saying? Like if it's a Marvel movie,
keep it constructive.
I'll talk all the shit I want. Or if it's like
if they're making like multi-million
Justin
dollars
Bieber song, you know what I'm saying? They don't care about my critiques, right? They don't care. But if it's a friend, of course, I'm not gonna be like incredibly harsh. I think it's still important to critique the art of your friends and to give them valid judgments.
You don't want to just be a yes man, like,
but only from a position of understand, like a knowledge. Like if I'm not a painter, so I'm not gonna look at a painter's art and be like, yeah, this, you could do this better, because I'm not a painter. But I can kind of give them what I feel. I could be like, okay, it feels this way, and it would be more enjoyable if I felt it that way. But that's like the furthest I'll go. Like this, it feels this way, and if that's not their intention, then they can adjust it however they feel that they can adjust it. But you know, if they don't feel like they need to because that's what their intention was, then you know that's what their intention was, and it's cool. You know. I think that's totally valid. I think critique is incredibly important, but constructive. Destructive critiquing is a lot of fun for me, but only for art that is separate from me, you know. And also sometimes, I know, because sometimes, and this is something that I sometimes people take my critiques, or they listen to my critiques, and they take it so personal when it has nothing to do with them. Like if I'm shitting on an artist that they love, oh my God, they're like borderline about to cry. And I'm like, okay, listen, my feelings, my judgments have nothing to do with your taste as an individual. Like because I don't like something, that does not mean that you have to not like that.
Yeah.
It also doesn't. I'm not trying to shame you for liking that as well. And you know, I need to do my part in being sensitive about that. Like if somebody says that they feel a certain type of way, then you know I'll stop. But a lot of the times, sometimes people take it like really personal.
Yeah, it sounds like a them problem to me.
Especially with like super stans. Like if you talk shit about any artist and they like them remotely, they're like, why you doing that? Why are you saying that? Why this is, and it's okay to be combative. Like if you don't fuck with my opinion, say it, and then we can argue about it because that's fun. But if you're gonna take it personally, please don't argue with me. Like if you're gonna take it personally in any way, when we're talking about someone, who's detached from us completely, someone who will never know us most likely, that to me is weird. And I like to combat that because that's like a problem with our society or in our generation is that we're very connected to. It's called there's a parasocial relationships. I think that's what it's called. Parasocial relationship is when somebody has a one-sided relationship with someone who has no idea they exist. So like celebrity culture.
We
like,
all suffer from that a little bit.
Oh yeah, for sure, dude. The amount of people I have crushes on that don't even know I exist.
Yeah,
like, oh
exactly.
God,
yeah.
Like it's bad.
Well, because they're
like that.
Art is interesting that way. You know, it feels like they're putting out a piece of themselves for you to
feel like you know them. You feel like you know them better than they know themselves sometimes.
Especially with like really personal artists like J. Cole and stuff like that. Like, you know, that you're getting a glimpse into their life and stuff, and like that's part of the appeal is that you kind of empathize with that, and that can become a very powerful thing. You know?
It can be very it can be pretty scary because also you don't even know how personal they're actually being. You have no idea how personal.
They could just be fabricating a life
like,
up. I've done that before.
J. Cole has a whole family and he barely talks about his family. How personal is he actually being? You know what I'm saying? Even though it feels super close and he probably he most likely is being very personal. But there are a lot of artists out there that aren't being personal at all.
I think it's important to have a line though too, you know, like as an artist, like, and I think every artist deserves that because like, you know,
can't be too out there.
Yeah, especially when you have like a huge like fan base like that, it can be kind of damaging to like be a little too candid, you know.
I feel like Kanye's like that. He has like,
and it's
a lot of followers, and he's also
fucked him up.
Incredibly personal. He's the most personal out there because everybody knows he's bipolar. Everybody knows he's like kind of like off the rocker sometimes. Everybody knows anytime he messes up in any kind of way, everybody knows about it. Anytime he like screws up or he hurts somebody or like it's just out there immediately. That is crazy, man. Like
I think part of it is purposeful. I think a lot of it's purposeful. I think he has like the I love Kanye, by the way.
His music is incredible.
A Kanye hat right now.
You're like
I'm obsessed with him, and a lot of
in
artists
a healthy way. In a healthy way.
I mean, I don't like agree with a lot of the things he stands for, but no one's perfect, and I think like what we were talking about earlier is like you run the risk of becoming the very thing you hate when you just make someone when you just make someone black and white, you know. But as in terms of art, like he's very inspirational to me, and like I wear that on my sleeve a lot. But where was I going with this? I don't even remember. He's like I think he does have like a complex, you know, where he kind of wants to be like this biblical figure, and the best way of doing that is being like extremely personal and to a fault.
I feel like he's like
a martyrdom.
I feel like he's rapidly approaching. I feel like he's rapidly approaching I Am the Messiah.
Oh, I think he's been there before.
No, he has been, but this is different though. This is like he's like a Christian now. And if he were to claim it now, it would have a whole different kind of weight. Because he's called himself God countless times before. But so has a lot of rappers do that. Yeah. But now he would like, if he were to call himself God or the Messiah or like the second coming of Christ, he would probably believe it more so than ever before. And a lot of people would follow that.
That's the misunderstanding. He never called himself God. He said he is a God, which...
I mean, he said it a lot of different ways. And I think you can interpret it in any way you want because like you don't really know what he actually means by that. But with someone like
the people going.
It gets the people going. And that's fine. Yeah, I like that. But like and this is not like I'm not saying that it's gonna happen. It just feels like he's like going towards that. Also, it's just like
I think he will be remembered for a very long time, for better or for worse.
Of course he will definitely be. He changed music forever, and that's something that I'm sure he's told every single day.
Yeah,
and that definitely contributes to his massive ego.
Yeah,
you know,
which
apart from all of the
deny that's when the ego gets even worse, is when you start denying that shit.
Well,
and like you start to pretend like you're just like this, you know, being like fake humble about shit. I think that's a little bit more off-putting to me than like actually just being an egomaniac.
That's true. I mean, you're definitely crazier if you hide it. If you like really deeply inside feel like you're like the god of all gods, but like you hide it,
and that'll manifest in like really disgusting ways.
That's a little weirder, but like that's when you think about it, that's probably how people saw Jesus back in the day if he was real. Like people, sorry, I said if he was
you're
real
about
right
to
after
get
that.
canceled on your first
that.
podcast.
If Jesus, and I say if because you know there are people out there that believe in him and people that don't. So like I say, because and we have no way of knowing if he was real or not. So that I say if he was real, but if he existed and people would see him and think like, wow, he acts so humble, but then he says he's the Messiah. Can you imagine seeing somebody like that? Be like, oh, he acts so humble, but he also thinks he's God, and then he turns out to be God. It's just really funny. But like, you would probably hate I would probably hate somebody like that.
I mean, if you look at our world right now, it would make sense if Kanye was actually the God, the Messiah, because it's so fucked up and like so weird and crazy and unbelievable, and like our world is bipolar right now. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I mean, I think that plays into like his Messiah qualities, is that he's like kind of the epitome of modern life right now.
In the States, yeah. I think
in the States, but I mean he's international, but yeah.
He's definitely international, but I
think
like
life in the States,
through, I think what he's going through and what he experiences is definitely is like hyper focused to like the life that we live here, which is like hyper capitalism. And I say capitalism, not going to get political. I don't think there's anything, I'm not going to like state my positions right now because it's not that kind of podcast. But I think that he's a product of this society, of this, not a communist. Don't, half of the people who say they're communists don't even know what communism is.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to, like, he is like a product of the society that we live in nowadays. And it's, I think it's like, I'm hoping that in the long run, he helps more people than he hurts. Because I think that one thing that's super important with people who have these like severe mental disabilities or issues, it's really important to do your best to treat that. And I think that, and to also be like, to learn to live with that as well. And I think that he does a really great job with like accepting who he is and being really proud of it. But it also like, I don't want to generalize, and I can't assume that this is happening because I don't know. I'm just stating out loud what I feel. I'm hoping that it's like leading more people who have similar problems to like find ways to adjust and like live a healthy life and not just be like, I'm full bipolar and everybody has to deal with it, and I can be whoever I want to be and be, you know, super whatever I am.
I don't think that's up to him though. I think it's up to the listener to come to their own conclusions.
It's not up to him, but it's also like we can't take away that responsibility from him. He can't just be completely irreverent and super that without some kind of responsibility.
One thing that I definitely like agree with is that like I think there can be a response. I think there is like a how do I put this? I think there is potential responsibility with artistry, but I don't think that responsibility is an obligation for the artist whatsoever. And I do not agree with, well, like I will fight for the rights of artists to be who they are, and have it not, like, the art and the person are two separate people. Obviously, I'm not sure how I feel about people who would like murder someone else or hurt people outright or condemn, like, you know, whole races of human beings and stuff. Like, you know, there's lines, like, or like pedophilia and stuff like that. But in terms of, like, you know, their opinions on stuff, it really, like, I feel like that should be a sanction, like that should be protected. And I don't think that artists should be valued for, like, their personal opinions over their art. Maybe, I mean, and at the end of the day, it goes back to, it's all up to the listener, because we're just making what feels right to us. Well, if you're doing it right, you are, you know, and we're just putting, you know, we're putting out art there into the world. It's not, you know, like, we may have intentions with that, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, like, what our intention was when it comes to people's opinions on it. You know, like, you can't control that. And that's something that kind of lives on its own in my belief. But it's just my opinion.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, it's a valid opinion too. I feel like a lot of people feel that way. I guess a question I would ask is like, do you think that
do I still listen to Michael Jackson?
I'd listen to Michael Jackson. I don't care what anybody says. I don't.
Exactly my point.
But it is different though, because it's hard because you can judge the art and the person separately, and I think it's important to do so, because, like, if you were to take a person to court for a crime that they've committed, you wouldn't take their music to court and then put their music in jail.
They've done that.
That's not how that works. But
they've done that.
What do you mean?
Bobby Shmurda?
What happened to his music?
He got sent to jail because he made a song that was very similar to.
I think that's different. I think that's definitely different.
NWA.
Like, if MJ was out there, like, saying "I touch booty hoes" in his music, and then, like, try to be like, "No, I don't." Like,
if you take "Off the Wall" and you play it in reverse at half speed, no.
So I think there's a difference there.
Yeah.
But you like I was saying, like, you don't take their art and, like, because this person did something wrong, you don't erase their art from the ears of the people. At least in America, you don't, because that's, like, different.
Yeah, it's burning you separate the person and shit like that. Those were dark days.
But I also feel like in this day and age, and there's a balance with this, because we're basically saying two things that are very valid, but that go hand in hand. The person listening cannot absolve themselves of responsibility because the artist told them to do something. Like, the person listening can't be like, well, you know, this guy told me to shoot up the streets, or, like, to do something. Well, I may not go that far. This guy told me to do. This artist was like, is okay with this, and I listened to his music, and he's a famous artist, so of course I'm gonna be okay with it too.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
He's this, and I'm okay with being that. That's not how that works. People need to take responsibility. But the other side of that is that the artists also need to take responsibility for their like, if you want to be someone whose platform.
Wait, so now I have to take responsibility because some guy with, like, fucking, I don't know, no offense or anything, but with some guy with, like, fucking schizophrenia or something, like, listened to my song and came to his own conclusion on stuff, or, like, even if I was explicitly saying, like, you know, go out and fucking slap a hoe, right, if she gets out of line, right?
That's case by case. There's case by case for sure.
Yeah, but I think those are just, like, weak-minded people who are, like, just like, you know, like little lemmings that will just jump off the ledge because they're very impressionable. And I'm not saying that, like, that's not caused by, like, a lot of either, like, trauma or, like, things that they may have, like, figures in their life that they may have been missing that they're filling in with those artists.
Yeah.
But that's not the artist's responsibility, you know, like it's not my fault. Like it wouldn't be my fault if someone like listened to my song and wanted to like, you know, do something
terrible.
heinous.
Yeah, I
I
understand.
had nothing to do with that.
I understand the individual cases. Yes,
Yeah.
if there's like someone, like the one person that did this thing because they listened to your song and they try to blame it on you, that's not how that works. I understand that. Yeah, but what I'm talking about is more so the more broad effects. So like Logan Paul, or
But that's
people who are-
children. See, that's where it's different
That's what
with
I'm
the
saying.
children.
Well,
like if you're
it's-
marketing it to children, you already know you're marketing to impressionable young minds that can absorb it, and they haven't had a chance to create their own identity yet, or which is kind of a fucking farce anyways, but we're not going to go that deep.
So yeah, and it is typically when I speak about artists that need to take responsibility for certain things, I am like talking about people that are really big on their platforms and that affect the broader population, and not just people who have like niche crowds and stuff like that, because those crowds, those audiences usually understand. But I still do feel like you like, if you're gonna be an artist that profits so aggressively off of the people that support you,
Yeah.
You have to like and I'm not saying you have to like make sure that all of the people who follow you are doing the right thing. That's aggressive. I'm just saying being responsible for the words that you say and being aware of what you're saying and how you're
awareness.
saying it.
I think being aware, you know, but I don't think there's
like you can't go to jail. You can't go to jail
an
for somebody who
obligation
did something
for that.
else because they listen to your music. That's not how that works. That's
don't
not what I'm
act
saying.
like don't come with an energy and act like you didn't come with that energy. That's
Yeah,
different.
exactly.
That's
Exactly.
different.
Yeah,
You know, like
yeah.
if you wanna like, you know, hoist the flag, hoist the fucking flag. Don't put it down when the fucking authorities come, you know, or like when, you know, people come to like, you know, talk to you about it. That's different, you know, but at the same time it's like that's their flag, you know, like it's not something that they stole from someone else that they like, you know what I mean? It's not like
it also just goes to like the fact that we're even having this conversation goes to show that we put too much on our artists. We put too much responsibility on people that are not meant to run society.
Exactly.
Like, we
they never signed up for office. They're not like, you know,
it's a terrible thing, because I don't want to do this, but like we should be trusting our politicians. I don't want to do that because usually, I know what I'm saying. We should be trusting the people that are appointed in society to uphold society and represent us. You know what I'm saying? Artists don't represent us, but nowadays, because of the way this world works, oftentimes younger people and people, even adults, feel like artists represent them more so than their own.
But you can't help who like wears those colors, right? Like you can put a palette out there, right? But you can't help who uses it, or like who, you know what I mean? Like they're gonna do what they will with that. You've already created it. They're gonna do what they will. Like you're not, you, with the exception of like constantly stating do this with that, right? But I don't think any major artists are really doing that. I don't think that would benefit their careers in any ways, so they wouldn't do it. Because then you're just like limiting yourself, and it's kind of lame. Good art is open for interpretation, and with interpretation, you have minimal control. You know what I mean?
Art is also meant to. My idea of art, and the most important thing for me when I think about art is how it reflects society and how it reflects our like state of being, because I think that's very important for the future. I think art gives really beautiful representations of what existed before, and I think that it's important for that to be. And I think that in a society where people are like, there are people out there in music and in movies and stuff and all these other things in sports, there are people that are direct reflections of the societies that people live in, you feel really close to that person. Because if I'm from Compton, right, and Kendrick Lamar or Roddy Ricch or like one of like those guys from Compton, that they're like directly reflecting what I experience on the day to day.
Yeah,
I'm gonna listen to them first before I listen to anybody that's representing me in my state, right? And that's kind of like it's a bit of a problem because the artists have a much bigger responsibility than they would even sign up for, you know. And then you're expecting someone who might not be ready for that kind of responsibility to be something that they might not be.
Yeah.
And some people are ready for that. So there are some artists like Roddy Ricch. I think he's like actually wants to do a lot for Compton.
That's what I'm saying. So like that's what I'm
thinking. Ready for that.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
A lot of artists aren't. A lot of artists are. Some artists are crazy. Like most people who get into art are like, you know, they got something going on. You know what I'm saying?
Name one genius that ain't crazy. Anyways, not at risk of like taking this topic like into a whole like just like keep going with it. Kendrick Lamar is kind of an exception to, and people like him because he accepted a mantle. He outwardly embraces the responsibility, and that's different. You know, like once you've anointed yourself, or if you will,
you take responsibility.
Yeah.
Once you
but for artists that aren't claiming that responsibility, for them to have to pay the consequences for what other people do with their art is bullshit to me. Yeah.
It's a very complicated conversation. There's a lot of nuance to it. There's a lot of like.
It's interesting though.
It's very fascinating too. Yeah. It's also like this fight for importance in society too. That artists struggle with is like, I'm doing something and I want it to be important for people. Yeah. I want it to change people. I want it to affect the society in some way. So it's part of that whole conversation.
J Balvin just came out with the whole documentary about this.
Really? That's wild.
Yeah, you should check it out sometime.
Yeah, J Balvin's cool. How do you feel about you saw all the stuff that Kanye did in Atlanta and like also not releasing Donda and stuff?
Oh man, don't even get me started on.
How do you feel about this?
I'm trying not to build resentment for that. I'm just trying to focus on James Blake right now. Because I do have like a low key gripe with that, but I'm still gonna listen to the album. That's why he can do it,
dude. Because you can't just say like, "Oh, you didn't release it on time. All right, well, I guess you're not gonna get as much streams as he's gonna get. All the streams and more."
That's why he does it.
But it's incredibly annoying.
I see it as like I see it as like Kanye's a performance artist as well as a visual and musical artist. Like it's like performance art. This whole baiting and like, you know, doing these like crazy, weird, off the wall promotion things that make no sense unless you're Kanye West. I think it's just all part of the brand, you know, like it's, yeah, man, that's the whole appeal. And it's like his style of performance art is to like be inconsistent.
He just really pulled up to Atlanta.
Yeah.
Really like showed the album to thousands of people.
Apparently it was so loud though that you couldn't even really,
I'm sure there were a bunch of difficulties.
Understand.
He showed
like,
up
what anyone was saying.
an hour and 45 late.
Oh yeah, I've been to a Kanye concert where I had to wait 2 hours for this motherfucker. Dude. Yeah, it was horrible, but I cried at the end of the concert.
That's the thing is that he just kind of can do whatever he wants. There's no fail.
That's what I know, man. I don't know how he does it. I don't know what it is. It's some weird concoction that created like everything just kind of fell in the right place to create this like thing that this you know, this it's a how do you say it, an anomaly. He's an anomaly, bro. It doesn't, there's no trying to understand it. You'll understand even less. You know what I mean? So you just kind of have to accept it for what it is, or just not fuck with it.
I was really excited to listen, man. I was really excited to listen.
Yeah.
It's just the lack of like.
Apparently August 16th, but
bullshit.
Yeah.
It just feels like it's like you're it's just like when one of your favorite artists, music artists, says he's gonna do something for like 2 years now. For like 2 years,
I think
dude.
3 is supposed to come out in 2018.
Like, come on, bro. Like, how long can you hold on to the masses like this? Like, it's just, I think it's incredibly just. I think it's so. It's
I
so.
think
It's
it makes sense though, because he
like a backhanded slap to all the people who love you.
Well, like you said, he's a very personal artist, and with that, like, if that's what moves you and your art forward, major life changes will put things on hold, and the divorce and everything is probably part of why he held it, because like I'm pretty sure this album's gonna sound a lot more angsty and heartbroken than it was originally after that breakup.
Yeah, I mean, I would just make another one.
Yeah, but
just like, okay,
Kanye,
I'm heartbroken. Let me release Donda.
When you have an ego like that, you're not gonna release something that you don't.
Is it not gonna be about his mother and his life and his upbringing, and not like about Kim K? I don't want to hear all of I don't want to hear this thing come out and then him just talk about Kim K.
No, well, I think it's gonna be
I don't give a shit about Kim K.
A little bit of everything. I think it's gonna be like.
If there's like, if it comes out with like 3 extra songs about his divorce, I'm gonna be tight.
It's probably gonna, that's probably gonna.
I don't want it.
And you're gonna be able to tell by the vocal mixes.
Yeah, it's gonna be just like dog water.
Like like the what's the one, I'm bipolar.
Oh yeah, the one where he's just like yelling about being bipolar the whole time.
Yeah, wow. I'm a huge Kanye fan, but I wasn't like a huge fan of that album, so I didn't like think. I don't know.
Which one was it? Was that the one that was Ye, right?
Yeah.
Like
Ye, where the mix.
Some of those songs,
some of the songs were mixed much better than the other ones.
Some of the songs, Violent Crimes, I think was off Ye.
Yeah.
That song is one of my favorite Kanye songs.
The Drake wrote that one, right?
What?
Oh no, not Violent Crimes. I was thinking of
song?
Another one. Yeah, he wrote one of the songs on that album.
Yeah, we don't give Drake enough credit. Well, no, we do. But he's like, I love Drake though. Yeah, he's just like people talk a lot of shit about him, but it doesn't matter. He's
low hanging fruit to me. Like, I'm not a huge Drake fan. It's not really my like cup of tea right now.
Mm-hmm. I love him,
but even so, like, I think it's low hanging fruit to make fun of him at this point. Like, it's just like, okay,
he's one of the most legendary artists of all time. Like he's just
like the Beatles. Like, it's like so easy to like act like okay, you're cool,
you don't like Drake, that's
you don't
fine.
like the Beatles. It's like
okay,
bro,
sure you don't like them. Sure you don't like the Beatles. Sure you don't like Drake. That's fine. Yeah.
And if you genuinely don't like them,
you don't
that's
like it.
Cool. But
like if you don't like him,
to make it an identity off of disliking someone
is
kind of whack to me.
Weird. It's just as weird as people being obsessed with like artists. It's just as weird. Because you're obsessed in a different way.
Have you ever met someone who's just like their whole identity is like what they do? It's impossible to hold a conversation with them. It's just like a bunch of smile and nod conversations. like, yo, where's the person underneath that? Like, I know that you're like a theater major or something, but like, we don't have to like talk in show tunes for the next 6 hours.
Yeah, I appreciate people who can have a variety of conversations. Yeah, but that's also why most people don't hang out with people outside of their like work groups or like their like their professions.
I think you're at risk of becoming a less interesting person if you do that.
Sure, yeah, for sure. And some people are okay with that though, and they're sometimes the most interesting people in their own friend groups.
Yeah,
so that's kind of like
it's like this is my.
It's my territory. I'm the boss out here.
This is my tribe.
Sometimes I hang out with because Christine has like doctor friends, because she's a doctor. And those people talk about things that I can barely understand. So I feel like sometimes I'm like, I don't know what's going on. But even then, I appreciate those conversations because I'm learning. And then I can go to my friends who don't know anything about doctor stuff and talk about doctor stuff.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's like,
that's cool.
I know something that some people don't know.
And it's funny because she just showed up. But,
she just showed up.
Every time I see like Christine's like Instagram posts with her doctor friends, I'm like, this is so strange to me that like she hangs like they're just so different.
They're the opposite of us.
Yeah,
the opposite of us.
But it's cool too. Like I love that she has like such distinct friend groups. That's great.
They're also very cool.
Yeah,
all of them are pretty cool. Yeah.
I met 2 of them. They're really awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Shout out to Natalie and Brent.
Whoop whoop.
But I love those kinds of interactions. It's just a lot of fun. Also, has anybody ever told you that you're kind of like a modern day like cool Phil Collins?
Bro, have I told you that you'll be in my heart no matter what they say? You have.
Yeah, I'm sure I have. Yeah, I've definitely said this
I think
before.
two people, you and someone else. I can't remember right now. I'm sorry if I don't remember who you are, but someone else said that. Not those exact words. I mean, I think we have very. I have a very similar approach to music in terms of like, I value experimentation over anything. And that's what I do best, in my opinion, is like taking a sound and trying to make it tell a story over like structure. Yeah, over structure or over, and Genesis is so good at that too. It's just like, and also I'm like super into 80s music.
He produced Genesis.
Oh, I was talking about the band that Phil Collins from.
Genesis. Yeah. Oh, the band too.
Yeah,
but that, I mean, that links up.
Yeah, it does.
It's funny, actually. It links up.
I like, and this part of why I'm like into Kanye and shit too, is like, I like finding sounds and like just fucking making them into something you would never expect.
Experimentation is definitely underrated in a lot of art. Only because like when you're in an industry, you gotta make sure it hits. You know, you can't really afford to miss. So
it's a high risk, high reward. When
people don't experiment because,
but when you defy the rules and you defy the algorithm and it works, then you become a Phil Collins, then you become a Kanye West, and then you become, you know, like someone that is like a counterculture pop star, which is like, you know, I'd love to have that kind of career. But at the end of the day, I'm just trying to make something that I'm interested in, and that like isn't just beating a dead horse like simple. A lot of other songs.
Very simple. You just want to do something that you haven't heard before.
And
that's kind of like, at the end of the day, that's all it is. And then if it turns into something bigger, then it's, you know, that's out of your control. But it'll happen. You know, if it does, if it's meant to happen, it will.
I want to go a little bit more experiment. I think I can stand to go more into that energy. But, you know, I'm also a sucker for just like a solid pop song for some reason, like that. not like a Katy Perry-esque pop song, but like you know, like anti-pop, you know what I mean? So I do find myself like kind of going to these very tried and true like melodies,
sounds,
lyrical, lyrics and melodies sometimes. But
even experimentation needs structure is the thing. Like, I think that like scientists experiment in a set environment of structure. Like everything that we do as humans, as individuals, has a certain level of structure, and I think that we kind of like we build structure as far as we want it, and then like once that's set, then it's like, okay, well, this is a structured sound. And if you go back on it even a little bit, it's still structured, but now you're just exploring that structure a little bit differently. Like if like, because you work in Logic, you have a certain level of structure. It gives you a ton of freedom, but structure allows you to experiment properly. Because there's a difference between experimentation and madness. Like they do go hand in hand sometimes. They often play off of each other, but you can't have true experimentation for discovery, for the purposes of discovery, without some level of like structure, some kind of like recording software. You know what I'm saying?
Like I forget what philosopher said this, but like there's like that old adage that goes somewhere along the lines of freedom is freedom within bounds.
Yeah.
Always. There's always going to be bounds. And you can't help that. So
I also think it's like pretty important, to be honest. I value it.
Like pure chaos is kind of frightening.
chaos there is good chaos, but
Oh, hell yeah. I
just
mean,
a world with no structure
if
is
you
a world that
want
I don't think
to
many
look
people
at
want to
it
live in.
broadly, like this is all chaos to
Yeah,
us,
for sure.
right? But there's probably order in that chaos somehow, just something
Agreed.
that we can't really perceive.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it goes deep, man.
I haven't even finished this yet. I gotta like go
But
crazy on this.
honestly, it's like I just do what feels right, and I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, cool. Cause I mean, I'm not classically trained or anything, so I don't really have like those. I don't have those like how do you say it? Those academic like leanings or anything where it's like
Inclinations.
inclinations where, so I kind of naturally have to experiment
Mm-hmm.
because I'm like, I don't know how to play
That's
a
true.
meridian scale
That's
or
true.
whatever the fuck. Like
You hear something
I
that sounds
just,
nice and you want to play with it.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And I
That's
think
true.
that plays a part in, you know, in the uniqueness of some of my music, which I could stand to have more examples for you guys, but they'll come. They'll come.
They will come. I mean, there's no real rush. I don't think anybody like nobody's. You're not like trying to meet like a studio deadline or anything. So
No.
there's no rush.
But I
You can
do
work.
have like I do want to have more representation of like things that I actually really want to do with
Mm-hmm.
music in the future. Like I think up until this point most of what I've put out is just my attempt at trying to get good at music and like
Okay.
trying to create something that people are interested in, and I've just been experimenting with different sounds to see which one will pop and then like just really focus on that.
Leaning into it. Yeah.
But now I'm just like, I kind of want to be the artist that I like, which are just constantly pushing the boundaries of music. And
What it can do.
so a lot of the stuff that you might hear further down the road is going to sound different than like what's out right now.
Yeah. Good. I mean, I feel like at this point people are ready for that because that's kind of what you emit. I feel like a lot of the music that you release isn't really similar to the song you released before that.
Yeah.
You shift pretty dramatically.
Yeah.
Which is I think is a great thing. You don't really see that too often. So I think
it's something that's doable now.
Yeah,
But
for
back
sure.
in the day, it would have been a very big problem. No one would want to invest in like
doesn't sound like your old
inconsistency.
stuff. Trash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But with streaming, it's like it's open. You know, like a lot of the stuff you listen to on your playlist, be honest, you don't know half the names of the people that made the songs. Like you're just listening for songs that are interest. If you're keeping up with modern music, right? You're listening to something that interests you, and then you hit the ellipses little thing and you say add to playlist or whatever, or you drag it into your playlist, and then you listen to that song when it comes up from day to day. But do you really like know the names of 100 to like, or like at least even like 80 to 100% of the artists on your playlist? You know, like no, most people don't if they're listening to new music. And I think that, you know, that's a double-edged sword because of course you want recognition for your work and stuff, but at the same time it's like it allows us to play around a little bit because you're not like this guy, you know, like they're just looking for interesting shit to listen to, you know. I obviously once you gain a following you kind of want to nurture your fans somewhat, but at the same time like your fans can be, you can create a fan you can create a following of people who enjoy the fact that you're constantly growing and changing.
Of course. Yeah,
You know?
that's probably a little more fruitful than like getting a job or getting like a
in the long run,
contract at
you
a
know?
studio, a contract at a studio where they expect you to make
again, it's
your
high
music.
risk, high reward, you know, like you have to
being
be willing
supported
to
is
sacrifice something to maintain your artistic integrity.
Kind of have to sacrifice stability most of the time.
Yeah.
I think that being supported and being stable as a being in society, I think is like something that more artists should focus on rather than being like legendary or being like famous or being, like millions of streams. I think stability
Still trying to shake that devil off my shoulder.
Strength in your community is more
Yeah.
important than anything else.
You guys helped me realize that, and that's
Project
why I
Feel helped
joined
me
Project
realize that,
Feel's Patreon, and and I'm giving them some of my hard-earned money because I really appreciate the fact that they give back to the community and they embrace people in their local area to be the best people they can be.
Local
Brought
artist,
to you
baby.
by Project Feel.
Ding. Yes, sir. So you're making you
I just realized I was
you've
looking
done
at the monitor, not the camera.
staring at yourself. You've done graphic art. That's cool. I didn't know. I mean, I knew that, but like people didn't know that.
Yeah, it's actually my first love is visual art.
Nice.
But because it's so much more accessible, well, it was to me to just have like, because I grew up in like really poor neighborhoods and just like, at one point was like living with my best friend's family because we didn't have a place to stay, and it was a really, really tough upbringing. A lot of people wouldn't guess it, but yeah, it was pretty hard. So having a composition notebook and a pencil was a lot easier than like having a drum kit or like a Casio keyboard or something. You know what I mean? Like it's
for sure.
So I was very much a visual artist first. Like when I was a child, I mean, I would sing a lot. My sister taught me how to sing, and we'd be listening to like, like the Fugees and stuff like that, and Lauryn Hill and shit around the house, and Boys to Men and everything. And like, that's how I learned how to sing and everything. But, as well as like rock too, like later on, like Death Cab for Cutie and stuff like that, like little indie bands and Vampire Weekend and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But which I think explains a lot about my vocal leanings, is like I kind of have a fusion of like an R&B artist and an indie rock artist, and like
Phil Collins. Okay.
Yeah. Pretty much. But going back to the art, like the visual art, is like when I was a kid, that was my getaway from like reality, because reality was so tough, at that point. And I think that's why I don't remember a lot of my childhood, because it's like I tried to erase it because it was so fucking painful. But it helped me cope, and that's what art is for me, is like kind of like a therapy. So I would draw like little comics and stuff like that. I started like mainly like character design. I would just like shows that I liked, just like any kid, like shows that I like Dragon Ball Z, or
I
like
used to draw those stuff
Sonic,
all the
or
time.
stuff like that. I would make my own characters in that universe that didn't exist, and like write them into the story.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so that's how I started like drawing, and then I just like was obsessed with it, and it gave me an excuse to be like the awkward kid at lunch. Like, I was the awkward kid at lunch, so it, instead of just like sitting by myself at a table
and absorbing things,
I was like, I just had my nose in my binder, and I was just fucking drawing nonstop. And when I was in fucking lunch detention, it would keep me safe, like in my head and stuff like that, because I was a little, I'm like a very peaceful, like kind. I like to think that I'm like a nice person now, but like when I was a kid, there's a lot of times when you're a kid and there's problems in the home, that shit reflects in school and stuff like that.
Yeah, you don't
So
really
I was,
know
like,
how
in
to
and out of
process things too
detention
well.
sometimes.
Yeah.
But I would always have my binder, and no one could like, I mean, I guess teachers wouldn't like it sometimes that I'm drawing, but no one could stop me if I'm gonna just go to detention and keep drawing.
They can't take that
I'm
away
like,
from
oh,
you,
thanks. Now I have more time to,
A lot of teachers would probably rather you be doing that than like the other kids who just like can't stop talking.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I was that kid that, you have so much potential
Mhm.
if you would just
Yeah, me
focus.
too. Me
You know, like,
too.
yeah, like the favorite, like they, like
You're
you're
really,
secretly
really
their
sweet,
favorite,
yeah.
but they like have the obligation from.
Yeah.
I've said the word obligation a lot on this podcast, but fuck it. To like say you need to
You're a
do
freedom
this
fighter.
assignment, but they know that you're like smart and like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's how I passed high school.
Yeah, same.
That's how I got through high school, was just being
I
that kid
definitely
that's like,
failed like 1 or 2 math
dude,
classes, but
I should have
passed
failed.
at the
I
end.
should have failed so many classes.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like I should
Yeah,
have failed.
same.
But
I'm passing with like B's and C's.
yeah.
Like, and teachers saying this counts for 70% of your grade, and then they would be like, you know what, I can't
That's
fail
when you
you.
start to realize it's all just a bunch of bullshit.
It's all a bunch of dude. School.
Not to say that there's not good things
Florida
from
education. No,
but
that's, and I learned
education is important.
I learned really late that education is incredibly important to the development of a child. Good education is so important to like, it saves children. Like, I almost went to the military because I had nothing else, because nothing else interested me. I couldn't play sports, and I found nothing that I was attracted to. Like, I wanted to be an engineer, I thought, in like 6th, 7th grade, because I went to Lockheed Martin and I was like, this is cool. And then I started doing math and I was like, this isn't cool. I didn't have my dad dropped out of high school in 9th grade. And you know, we were struggling. But he wasn't like there to be like, oh, school is important, you know. He would tell me that, but he didn't even like school, so he couldn't even really tell me that. My mom went to college, but she went to Bible college, so she, like, my parents were like, be a pastor. So I was like, I'll be a pastor, right? And so I had nothing that was like, my parents weren't doctors, they weren't lawyers, they weren't like scientists, they weren't musicians, they were musicians, but they weren't like artists, they weren't these things that, you know, sometimes kids get lucky with, and then they're like, oh, I can follow down this path, and I like the way that I see the example of this, right?
The statistics were not in your favor.
The only example I had was how to be a Christian, and everything else was just a bunch of kids doing the same thing that I was doing, and teachers who did not give a fuck about me, maybe 1 or 2, but teachers who like, you're a really good kid, I'm gonna pass you because you're a good kid and you don't bother me.
Yeah,
everybody else does, but you don't bother me, so I'm gonna pass you. Me not knowing anything. I remember going to 10th grade English, and I went to private school first to the 4th grade, I think. And in private
like a
school,
Christian school or something.
it was just a private school. It was just a shit private school where they didn't teach you anything. But in private school, I was the really good kid, and I didn't really learn much. I was just there, and I would do my assignments really fast, and then just do other things because my teacher would be like, "Oh, you finished, you're good." But I wasn't really learning anything. And I realized this when I got to 10th grade English, and everybody knew all of the details of sentence structure, all of the vernacular, all of the things that you need to know. And I was the only one that didn't know a damn thing about what they were talking about. And everybody was moving through it like they all knew what they were talking about. And I was like,
but you could do it, right? Like you can write a sentence.
Write a sentence really well, but I didn't know any of that stuff, right? And then, so that just took me out. I was like, I have a girl sitting next to me. I'd rather focus on this girl. Like, I didn't care because nobody told me that it's really important to care. Like, nobody told me genuinely, and not that nobody told me. People told me like education is important, but they never told me why. And that's the problem, is that you don't explain things. Like, people don't explain things to kids. They just say what to do and what not to do.
Absolutely.
And they don't tell you why or why not.
Mm-hmm.
That's why drugs are the way that they are, because like kids doing drugs nowadays, because they were never told what it does to you and how it can harm you. They were just told not to do it.
Yeah.
And then they're like, I'm doing it and I feel great. What's wrong with this? You know what I'm saying? And sometimes you just choose to be oblivious and you know that that's bad for you. But oftentimes for kids, it's like, well, I don't feel like it's doing this to me. So why do I need to, like, I don't feel like it's bad, but they're just telling me it's bad. But that's all they're telling me, is that it's bad.
Yeah.
Why can't I have sex? Why am I going to go to hell or bird for eternity if I do this? That's all I knew. And it was traumatic, dude. Traumatic. And then going to school, I was like, well, I mean, nobody told me why I gotta go. I mean, people told me why I gotta go to school, but I don't really want to do any of that stuff. So, and then thank God, thank the Lord in heaven up above, I found theater. Bro, theater saved me. I was either gonna be super pastor or like military boy. and I would have been probably pretty miserable in both, and I wouldn't have found anything. Like I found love, dude, and passion.
Same.
I found myself. I realized recently that I dissociated for a lot of my childhood. I was disconnected from myself.
Same.
I don't remember anything from
Me
my childhood,
neither,
bro.
man.
I don't remember anything. And it wasn't like physically traumatic. It wasn't like people abusing me. It wasn't people being aggressive towards me. It was just people not doing anything for me.
Oh.
And that's all it was. It was just me just being like, okay, well, I'm here. I was just there. I was like, and just completely disconnected from
I literally
reality.
just dissociated. Like I had me in a hospital room dissociated at one point. Yeah.
That's insane. That's so good.
But yeah, man, I like, yo, you're just preaching to the choir right now. I know you didn't decide to be a preacher, but damn, you're good at it. No, but even to like run off of that, like in a way, aren't you a preacher still? Just not for Jesus Christ necessarily.
Just not for Christianity.
Right? Aren't we just preachers, man?
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially when I hear 6 Feet Under, that sounds like, god damn, that's the best fucking Sunday service I've ever had. You know what I mean? Like, it's arguably more effective than actual preaching. You know what I mean? Art leads the culture, you know, and you said it yourself, you know, like it's very influential, and maybe there is a responsibility there, but if you choose to meet it, it can be very powerful, and more powerful than condemning someone for something. Not to reduce religion just to that, but unfortunately our feeble human brains sometimes only know how to perpetuate the shame that we were given as a child into other people, and think that we're doing a justice to the world. But art is like almost like a hands-off version of that, where it's just like you're allowing people a space to heal, or to be angry, or to reflect, or to forget, or to love, or to hate. It's like everything. It has the capacity to really enhance the way that we exist. And isn't that just like preaching at its highest level in a way?
I think the value that a church offers a community is very important. But what a church became and what they began to do, and how they began to indoctrinate and like not properly teach, I think that it became very toxic. But I think the value of a church, I genuinely believe that a community, it's the same.
It's
thing
community.
It's Project Feel, bro. Like,
it's community.
We have Project Feel. You could consider Project Feel a church, because we could find a congregation, a building.
Yeah.
And we could
but then they just
together.
Start calling us a cult, which is like we're already towing the line, right?
And we could come together and listen to trap
music,
and have that be our praise.
Yeah.
And we'd be a church, you know what I'm saying?
Oh,
but
yeah.
that's not the value of it. The value of it is community, people, surroundings. The value of raising your child in a village and not the nuclear family that we all were raised to believe is most important.
Yeah.
Raising in a village, being raised in a community, having experiences, knowing different people. If I knew, bro, if at a young age I knew someone who did theater, I probably would have found it much earlier and been like, that's really cool. People connect to people who show them something different.
But I think it happened when it needed to happen, man.
No,
like,
it definitely did.
You appreciated it more because of those years before.
I definitely did find it when I needed to. But what I'm saying is that, like, when you raise someone in a village, they have the experience of all and not the experience of two. Like, they learn from the mass, not even the mass. They learn.
It's
from
not
the
this fucked up, like, simulated version of the world that only two people could come up with. You know, it's like it's going to be fucked up.
Yeah.
You could be the two best people in the world. Two people cannot create your world.
Yes,
You know,
and they
it's
can't
gonna be
give you.
fucked up
They
no matter
can't.
what.
They can't give you the experience that you need to
Yeah,
be a functioning human being or to
absolutely.
be happy.
That's why people put their kids into sports at early ages and stuff. Like people who are conscious about their children,
Yeah.
they put them into activities to enact them and
Mhm.
like to give them the ability to see like a
Mhm.
microcosm of what your life is going to
And
be.
and I think there's value in church when there are so many different kinds of people in that church. But I had the opposite experience where
Yeah.
everyone was the same.
Exactly. Yes,
Everyone was
yes.
like a carbon copy of the
Well,
next.
I don't
And
think
not
those
because
people
they
were
were,
legitimately the
not
same.
because
They're
they were,
putting
no,
on this,
because they
yeah.
had to be,
They
because they
had to be. They
literally they
felt
felt
like
like,
they.
and I'm gonna preface this by saying, or not preface, I'm gonna give it a little footnote and say that like my parents are really, really beautiful people, amazing, incredible
I
individuals.
mean, look at them.
And they are everything. They gave me everything that they could possibly give me. They did all this for me, and they are currently still supporting me, and I would not be here without them. um but as they were fighting for survival, I was kind of just like in the world, like, well, I'm not fighting for survival because my parents are fighting that for me, so I'm just existing. And while they're off fighting, the war, I'm just like at home, like with nobody else around me that I really genuinely look up to, or nothing else around me that I really want to do. Like I would watch movies and listen to music and
Yeah.
really enjoy those things and not really know why.
And that
And
could
know nothing
probably
about
be
those things, those art forms.
I think that plays a big role in like why we're interested in art and entertainment is
Mm-hmm.
because they kind of raised us in a way.
And here it all is. The internet literally raised us, because while we were fighting in the nuclear family and we were only learning from two people, we were secretly learning from the entire world.
Yep.
Because we had the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And we got kind of lucky. Like,
yeah.
Where some people from, a certain amount of time from when the United States started to now, there are a lot of people towards the beginning of it and before the internet that only had very few examples, and now
It's a microscopic view of the world.
live very close-minded lives. But for us, we had the benefit, in a lot of cases a detriment, but like we had the benefit of learning from a lot of people. And the bad part was that there was no structure. Like what society would give you and what the community would give you is some kind of structure, like some kind of moral background, where everybody kind of follows a certain set of rules,
Yeah.
and we all kind of respect each other, and you see people follow those rules, and you have examples. On the internet, you can follow anybody.
What was
and
the
anybody
Wild
can do
West,
anything.
man?
It is the Wild West, yeah, and it's still being discovered.
It's like fire, man. Like I always say this, the internet is like exactly like fire.
We just discovered fire, yeah.
If we just
Recently.
discovered fire, imagine how much shit they burned down, bro. Like imagine how much destruction humans caused when they were like 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 they just want to see the fucking flames, right?
Yeah, they just want to see the flames.
Yeah, and that's the internet, but occasionally we'll eventually like we'll start to figure it out, and then we'll discover something else and we'll be like
we harness it, we master it, and we move forward,
exactly.
And that's exciting. Hopefully we come back to see it, hopefully like I'm really like I really hope reincarnation is the thing, because that'd be cool.
Yeah.
But
if it was, isn't the whole point that you don't know what's happening?
Sorry, I hope for it because I want to continue to live this life, which is it's this testament to like how much I love the life that I live, even though it's pretty scary. But I also my thing is that I really hope that reincarnation exists, but in a way where it's there's no timeline.
Yeah.
So like I could reincarnate into someone who lives in the 1700s,
or like alternate timelines or alternate worlds.
And the way that I feel it's all connected, or I want it to be all connected, and I think I heard this in a Logic album, but there was a part where he died. Hey, Logic is he died. He's he's just the dad now, but he died and he went to heaven, and then or heaven, and he went to talk to this guy, and the guy was like, yeah. Welcome back. And he was just basically like, yeah, you exist in a world where you live, you die, and then you experience someone else. And you as an individual, the you that is here, that has arrived in this moment, that's about to be sent back, has lived every single life that exists. You've experienced everything. and now you're just going back to experience something else
I remember
again.
this. I listened to that
And
album.
I love that concept. I feel like
Yeah.
it's such a freeing concept, but in a way that's not negative. It makes me love my present day because it's me experiencing.
Think about
life.
other people in a more empathetic way
Yeah,
too.
it's like I've experienced you, you know.
But that's
I've
like
met
you don't want to start with that, you know, because that's
can't-
kind
you-
of.
You can only do.
Hey, nice to meet you. I've experienced you.
Yeah, that's a little weird. Yeah. You also, it would also give you this false narrative that
You're the
understand
one.
everything and
Yeah.
which
You're fucking Neo or something.
Yeah, it's important to have
Yeah.
your boundaries, but that would just be really cool.
Yeah.
Dope, right?
Conceptually, yeah.
We'll see. Nobody knows what's happening.
Nobody knows. That's
Nobody
just,
knows where we're
yeah. We're just plopped in. Here you go. Good luck. Have fun. You know, can I be 100% honest with you?
Please.
Because I feel like we're nearing the end.
We definitely are, yeah.
I hope we are. Not that this is a bad conversation, but I just really need some AC right now. Just to get a little deep right before we leave.
Yeah, of course.
I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I don't think I have truly wanted to live until recently. Yeah. It just felt like a burden. But recently, I've like today, in fact, I had this thought on the way here. You know, I was just walking down the sidewalk, and I like to do this sometimes now. I think it helps. I would suggest if you're struggling with depression, anxiety, or any kind of mental ailments, to just walk down the street. You might look like a fucking psychopath, but just really look at people like in the eyes and just imagine their childhood. Imagine where they were before. Imagine them being in love. It's very life altering. And I think New York has a way of like telling you not to do that, to just like look straight and don't pay attention. But I like to defy the rules. So I look at people and I imagine it, and it's fucking beautiful. Like, it's undeniably a fulfilling sensation. And what does that say about life? You know, like, I'm not like, you know, like, I don't know. I'm not telling myself to feel happy about it. You know, like a lot of times when I'm happy, I'm telling myself, like when I look happy, I'm telling myself, be happy. Everyone else is happy. Be happy. But I would genuinely feel a sense of joy when I have my earphones in and I'm listening to some nice tunes and I'm walking down the street and I just look at someone and I think about their life, or like where they may have been before this, or like hard times, good times, but they're here right now and we're sharing this moment or this sidewalk, or, you know, like they're going through it too and we're all just going through it together. And you guys like help me maintain this way of living that you embrace people, you know. And while I'm not confident enough to like walk up to a stranger and be like, you look beautiful today or something, that's kind of like weird too. Like that might like throw people off. Like just thinking of it, just the fact that it's so beautiful to me helps me realize that like maybe life is beautiful. Like, you know, maybe life is like something worth experiencing, and it's not just like this fucking brutal like obstacle course that you just like have to run the race or die. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, cause I had a very fatalistic view of the world before coming here, and I still have my moments and my days, but just try that sometime and see how it makes you feel. You might look at the wrong person, but then if that happens, try to think about why they're reacting that way. I mean, maybe some of the injustices or the things that they've experienced in their childhood, or, you know, like everyone has a story. And to me, like, even trying to like fathom what that story could be is so fascinating to me that I think, well, I can make my life this fascinating story. So let's do it, you know, like, let's try, you know, all you could do is try. And so, yeah, I feel like living now, but yeah, I just wanted to maybe get a few of our Patreon, you know, members shed a tear or two.
I feel you, dude. I feel
Maybe
you,
then
man.
they'll go up to the next bracket.
Ooh, that's hitting me real hard. I feel you and you feel us. Thanks for being here, brother.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks
you,
for
man.
having me, man.
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah, is there like a outro thing?
We'll see. I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't fucking know. This is all new. We'll see.
Thanks for watching I Feel You.